Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't subscribed my channel, can you please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon. You will get that notification when I upload new videos into my channel. So in this tutorial, we will discuss about Kubernetes introduction, why Kubernetes, and what are the problem statements and challenges it will overcome. And finally, we will see how to automate them. Okay, so that's what we will cover in this video. So now let's get started. Basically, we use containers for deployment. Whenever we think about deploying an application, we need to think about containers. Now, to use Docker on single server, how do you manage containers? Like creating, starting, stopping, all those things, how do you manage? And some of the other concepts to create a container, we need image to run it in a detached or attached mode, and what startup commands to give, what ports to map, what volumes to map, right? All those things are required. Okay, so apart from that, if you want to create your own Docker image, so what and all instructions are needed and what is that you are going to do. So that's what we need to understand first. But these are the bigger part of deploying an application. Okay, so that is when, in simple, we are not going to create one single container. We need multiple containers, and we will always have a limitation on how many containers are creating in a server. Okay, because it's not the number of containers, but what application you run inside the container. That is a matter actually. So if you want to deploy 100 containers, 500 containers or 1000 containers, typically it cannot happen in one server. You will go to the multiple servers. So that is where we will get into the multiple challenges. So what are those challenges and how to overcome? What is the tool we are going to use for overcome those challenges? That's when you would be going into tool called Kubernetes. Okay, so now let's take a simple example just to understand what we are talking about. Basically, now let's say you and your friends plan for dinner and you book the cab. Now suddenly there might be other friends also who want to join with you. Now it's more than 3 or 4 people, one cab will not be sufficient. So let's assume now we have around 7 or 8 people are there. What you have to do is, so you have to get the another cab which is exactly like previous cab, and all of your friends might be going together. Okay, so typically the expectation here, what we call it as a scaling. Scaling means just multiply more numbers, like it may be increasing or it may be decreasing. But do you think you will get it immediately? No. Why? Because you have to book the cab and again wait for another cab to come, and then all your friends have to go. Okay, so in real time also you have some requirements exactly like this, where you will be not having just one container to manage the load. You might have to make multiple copies of your containers. So that way, how can immediately get it? Like I can take mobile, install the application, and I can book the cab. But the process of doing this will not be as simple you think. It's going to time taken process, right? So that is where creating container is very easy, but like how you can't book two cabs in same application, so obviously then you have to take some other mobile or some other application similar to that. So that creating containers is easy, but you are not going to do it on the same server. Obviously you need to take other server, and after that you need to create container. So what are the challenges here if you do like this? So then this time, take a car, you are going to airport to catch the airplane. Now on the way the car breaks down. Okay, so what is that you have to do now? So you have to replace your cab with the another cab which is running fine to help you to reach the destination, right? The same way, what we have, a container is up and running. What will happen if the container fails or there is some issue with that container? So what we can do, you cannot just stop the container. Let's say in production, your application is accessing by the customers. If the container have some issue, you need to replace with the new container. So you no need to stop existing container, because if you stop, there is a big impact will come and negative feedback come. So how are you going to replace it? So you need to keep on monitoring what is happening to that container, and then you can replace it. Okay, so that is how, if any issue with the container, you no need to stop that container. You need to replace with the new container which is working fine. So far we are using Docker and we were running containers on a server. Now let's assume your server has 15 GB capacity. Your application is required 5 GB. So now how much of RAM is available in this server? Around 9 to 10 GB. So this is where now I told you, when staging or QA is running for their testing, they need minimum 2 containers. Why? If one container fails, other one is available, which is what we call it as a high availability. So let's say we have created another container, okay, but what if there is a more load unlike a production? I want another copy of the container. So technically we can call it as a replica. So what is mean by replica? I need another container which is exactly same image, same configuration, everything should be same. But I cannot create it in the same server. So obviously, what is that I have to do? We have to take another server and we have to create it, right? So this is how, in this server, you have to run some Docker commands and create the container. Okay, in real time what will happen, you will not just have 2 servers, because the load might be very high. You might have multiple containers to create. That is where always you will have a group of servers. So technically the group of servers we can call it as a cluster. So now let's take the example. I have a 4 servers and each one of the server the Docker is running. But now let's assume I want to create another 2 containers. Now I have give you as a 2 servers. So what is my requirement is, I want to additionally add another 2 containers. So where will you create? So you cannot pick up randomly those servers actually. So you need to know first which and all the servers are there, what is the capacity on the each server, what is that you want. That you want to do some mapping and then decide, okay, either I can go to the second server, I can create one container, but for another container again I have to search and I can create where is the capacity is available. But what I am telling, this is not easy process. Okay, so now again assume load is increasing, I need another replica. So where I will create another replica now? So once again you have to go through all the servers and find out where is the capacity is there, and there only you are going to create the container. Okay, but creating the containers after finding the server will it not be easy, because you need to be find out where and all the capacity is available. So Docker doesn't know anything about all this. It will say, okay, you can go to the server and you can execute a Docker command. I will download the image and I will create the container. But there is a someone like as a human or who has to take the responsibilities of telling to the Docker. Then the Docker will be take care everything. Now this is only about creating. Now what will happen if I give you 30 servers and you have to create 100 replicas of the container? Then every time you cannot go to the each server and keep on telling or keep on saying create the containers. Okay, so that means how can we replicate? It is not easy. This is that first problem we need to be overcome by using Kubernetes. And the second problem is you wanted now 5 containers or 5 replicas of your application it's running. Now suddenly a server crashes, then what will happen? It is our responsibility to make sure 5 containers are should be up and running. Now suddenly if one mission got crashes, what will happen? So how many are there? Out of 5, only 4 are there now. So what is that we should do now? Again, where we will create it? You have to again find out which mission has the capacity. In that mission, how much I can create it, and then calculate, and finally I can do it. So that will be again very tedious process, and this is where it is not just the server crashes. Sometimes one of the container itself might be not working due to many reasons. Then again, what is the problem? So it's like not cab broken down. Your cab is there, but there is no diesel. Then still you cannot use it. So the same way, you wanted 6 containers are running, but one container is not running fine. Then again, your problem is to replace it with the new container. Again, where will you create a new container? You have to go and find out the capacity and then execute your Docker commands. So you think in your real time in production where the customers are accessing. When you have hundreds of servers, you have hundreds of containers to create. You cannot find out which server is there, whether it is running or not. If it is not running, not at all possible. Okay, so this is what the second problem actually. So that means you cannot find out and you cannot create the containers actually if it is there more servers. Now let's talk about other problem statement. Now all these containers are same copy and same application, but let's assume your application is exposing something like port. Okay, now all these are replicas. Replicas means same copy. So all of these are going to export or expose to the port is 8080 or 9090 like that based on the requirement. Then if I want to map this to on server, in the Docker we can saw port mapping. Just I will say the port, then the Docker will take care. Now let's take this second server. There are 2 containers as per the Docker concept. If I have to access both the containers, what should I do? I should take a different port for first container and a different port for the second container. So first one become, for example, I can say 8080 and second one become 9090. As a user, which one will you access? Creating is okay, but now you go to any websites like Facebook.com, Amazon.com, Flipkart.com, Google.com. Are they telling you you should go to this container access? No. So as a user, which one will access you? Again, even if you take one server, should I access 8080 or what is the other port? How will I know that what port is running on, because what server it is running? Okay, so I don't know first of all these servers or containers where it is going to run. I don't have to worry about port number which you have to map. That is for the administration task. Admin will take care actually what port is mapping, where the containers is running, all those things. But as a user, I need a single point of contact which can help me to access. So which is again what we can call it as a load balancing. Okay. So again, Docker cannot do this load balancing. So the Kubernetes will do that load balancing. So you come to that server, you can give the port, Docker will help you to access. But in group of missions or servers, you cannot do the load balancing using Docker. So this is the one of the challenge we can overcome by using Kubernetes. If you see now, Docker as a tool, with help of Docker, manage the containers on single server. But now, in real time, when we say deploying application, the requirements are you need to have a fixed set of containers. Fixed set means, for example, for staging or QA environment, I need a minimum of 2 containers or let's say I have some load, I want to 6 containers always should be up and running. It's not about creating, but if I say run means I want 6 containers. You should not be worried about in which mission the capacity is there, and you should not be worried about it is running or not. If it is not running, it has replaced. You will just say you need 6 containers, and we should make sure that all those 6 containers should be always running. So which is not Docker can help here, because Docker will just create the container, but over a different missions or different servers it cannot work. But this is what we need in the real time. And the next thing is health check. So once again, it's not about running 6 containers, but we have also make sure that those 6 containers are running fine. If it is not running fine, we need to replace it something new end of the day. I should have 6 containers should be up and running always. Like example, if you take 2 or 4 or 6 containers and should always be running fine. If it is not, health check of the application failed, so replace with the new container. And then if more load comes, you should be able to scale those containers as up and down. From 6 I should be able to even make 10 containers or 50 containers. Same way, if you don't have the load, from 6 I can also make it to the 3 containers or 2 containers based on the requirement. So you should have the ability or flexibility, because once again for this I cannot go to each server and say remove this container, remove this container. You need a way to handle this process. Okay, let's assume same 6 containers are running. Now those 6 containers are created from the image. So after that, couple of updates are happening to the code base. So again the Docker images will be generated by using the build. Then I want to replace those 6 containers with the 6 new containers from the new image. So you have to replace the old one with the new one. Now for that, how will you do that? Because that's what happening in your applications, right? Updates keep on happening. Now for that update, I cannot go and stop the 6 container to create a new containers. If you stop that existing container, what will happen? There is some impact will be there. So let's say Google or Flipkart or Amazon do some updates. Will they say, wait, I have to shut down application or shut down all the servers or containers and then I have to create a new containers? Is that what they are saying? No. You will be still accessing, but at the same time they will try to change or upgrade. That's technically what we can call it as a rolling updates. So you are just going to update the existing without causing the problems or impacting. So you need a mechanism in such a way that will be taken care. Which means your 6 containers will be running, that is old. You will also have 6 new containers are running, and then you need to replace. So that is the process we need to bring up. So now it's not 6 container, it's going to be a double or triple, 12 containers or more. There should be a same process you have to change. So how are you going to handle that? Okay, and then the load balancer comes into the picture, because you might one container or 10 containers or more. As a user, you should not worrying about that, where those containers are running, how many are running. There should be a one load balancer mechanism is there. That should be redirected to what are the containers are running in the backend. Okay, so where you have access that, like you can use one IP addresses and you can access it. So this is the requirement we have. Now this Docker cannot do it, because Docker runs on a single server and it cannot do all those things for us. And this is where the solution again is developing, or the solution for DevOps is to automate this process. Okay, so if you want to automate this process, so what we are talking about is, we are talking about automating the process of managing multiple containers on group of servers. Docker will help us to create, start, stop, restart the containers in one server, but you want to manage multiple containers across the group of servers. Now, how we are going to do that? So this is where there is a one more concept or approach which is called declarative approach, which is almost like a Terraform and Ansible are working, right? So what we will do now, you will have group of servers, which is what your actual state. Now what is that you want is, for example, I want 10 containers from the particular Docker image. We should be running with the particular startup command, what should be the port mapping, volume mapping, so that you will give it to the desired state. You don't have to worry about in which server containers are creating, whether they are running or not, whether we have to do load balancing or not. So you will tell your desired state only. Okay. So once again, how do you define your desired state is through config file. Those config file you can store into the one of the source code repository. So that way automation will take the desired state from you, or which is from Git. Then it will go to the group of servers and it will manage. That is where now you write the config file similar to the Terraform or Ansible. Here what you are going to tell is, we are going to tell how to manage the containers. Okay, like how many containers you want, what are the containers should be running, what is the volume is mapping. Okay, so and then we should have to see what port is mapping. All those things you should have to define, but you no need to define where to run. That is where you tell what you want, and then automation will take care of creating the containers, and it will be take care of how to run the containers. So this is how for different requirements you are going to define with the different configuration file, and then automation should be take care of. Okay. Now imagine I have 10 containers. You will just tell to the automation that I want 6 containers, and then this is where my desired state will be given to that automation, will connect to all the servers and it will create the containers. If it is not running, it will try to replace it with the new container. If you want to scale up or scale down, you just tell to the automation, then the automation will be take care of everything. Those changes will be taken. Now I will say I don't want 6 containers, I want only 10 containers. Immediately this will read and automation will take care actually. So what is the definition? It is already available in the config file. It will take where to create, go find out and create those containers, and you want to access them, you can access by particular IP addresses which it gives, and that will do the load balancing. Getting it? So what is this process called as an automation process? Like managing a container on single server is what Docker does, but now we want managing containers on multiple servers and multiple containers. So the concept is called as container orchestration. So let's discuss container orchestration on the next session. So please go through this. If you have any doubts, could you please ping me. Thanks for watching.